Так, всем привет. Начинаем чтение 14 главы, потому что экзамен у нас будет с 14 по 16 главу. Первый экзамен 14, 15, 16 глава. И начинаем мы с темы Bond Prices and Yields. Так. Здесь куча текста, но мне кажется, он ни о чем. Ну, давайте прочитаем. In the previous chapters on risk and return relationships, we treated securities at a high level of abstraction. We assumed implicitly that a prior detailed analysis of each security already had been performed, and that its risk and returns features had been assessed. То есть в предыдущих главах мы рассматривали... Сейчас, подождите. Мы... Записывает или нет, непонятно. Да, вроде записывает. Так, мы рассматривали securities на высоком уровне, и мы подразумевали, что за нас кто-то уже сделал детальный анализ этих ценных бумаг, и что нам дали уже риск и return, то есть standard deviation и доходность этих бумаг. We turn now to specific analysis of particular security markets. We turn now to specific analysis of particular security markets. We examine valuation principles, determinants of risk and return, and portfolio strategies commonly used within and across the various markets. We begin by analyzing the debt securities. A debt security is a claim on a specified periodic stream of income. Debt securities are often called fixed income securities because they promise either a fixed stream of income or one that is determined according to a specified formula. These securities have the advantage of being relatively easy to understand because their payment formulas are specified in advance. Uncertainty about the cash flows is minimal as long as the issuer of the security is sufficiently creditworthy. Easy to understand, payment formula specified in advance. Uncertainty about the cash flows is minimal as long as the issuer of security is sufficiently creditworthy. That makes these securities a convenient starting point for our analysis of the universe of potential investment vehicles. The bond is the basic debt security, and this chapter starts with an overview of the universe of bond markets, including treasury, corporate, and international bonds. We turn next to bond pricing, showing how bond prices are set in accordance with market interest rates and why bond prices change with those rates. Given this background, we can compare the myriad measures of bond returns, such as yield to maturity, yield to call, holding period return, and realized compound rate of return. We show how bond prices evolve over time, discuss certain tax rules that apply to debt securities, and show how to calculate after-tax returns. Finally, we consider the impact of default or credit risk on bond pricing and look at the determinants of credit risk and the default premium built into bond yields. Credit risk is central to both collateralized debt obligations and credit default swaps, so we examine these instruments as well. Bond characteristics. A bond is a security that is issued in connection with a borrowing arrangement. The borrower issues, i.e. sells a bond to the lender for some amount of cash. The bond is IOU of the borrower. The arrangement obligates the issuer to make specified payments to the bondholder on specified dates. A typical coupon bond obligates the issuer to make semi-annual payments of interest to the bondholder for the life of the bond. These are called coupon payments because in pre-computer days, most bonds had coupons that investors would clip off and present to claim the interest payment. When the bond matures, the issuer repays the debt by paying the bond's par value, equivalently its face value. The coupon rate of the bond determines the interest payment. The annual payment is the coupon rate times the bond's par value. The coupon rate, maturity date, and par value of the bond are part of the bond indenture, which is the contract between the issuer and bondholder. Which is the contract between the issuer and bondholder. Okay. Вставляем. Эмиссионное соглашение.
Indenture.
Ну, как они сами сказали, это contract between the issuer and the bondholder. To illustrate a bond with par value of 1,000 and coupon rate of 8%, to illustrate a bond with a par value of 1,000 and coupon rate of 8% might be sold to a buyer for $1,000. The bondholder is often entitled to a payment of 8% of $1,000 or $80 per year for the stated life of the bond, say 30 years. The $80 payment typically comes in two semi-annual installments of $40 each. At the end of the 30-year life of the bond, the issuer also pays the 1,000 par value to the bondholder. Bonds usually are issued with coupon rates set just high enough to induce investors to pay par value to buy the bond. Sometimes, however, zero coupon bonds are issued that make no coupon payments. In this case, investors receive par value at the maturity date, but receive no interest payments until then. The bond has a coupon rate of 0. These bonds are issued at prices considerably below par value, and the investor's return comes solely from the difference between the issue price and the payment of par value at maturity. We will return to these bonds later. Так, что за таблица есть? Здесь US Treasury quotes, US Treasury quotes, maturity, coupon, bid, asked, change, asked, yield. Так, это когда они выплатят долг, это сколько купона они платят, это сколько они бит. Сколько они просят или как? Бит это ставка вообще. Заявка, предложение цены, предлагаемая цена. Предлагаемая цена 100, запрашиваемая цена 100, 82, 81, изменение 0,78 и процентная или запрашиваемая доходность в процентах 0,177%. Непонятно, нифига непонятно, конечно. И почему вот это выделено. Treasury bonds and notes. Figure 14.1 is an excerpt, как произносится.
Excerpt. Excerpt. Excerpt.
Excerpt. Так, figure 14.1 is an excerpt from the listing of treasury issues. Treasury notes are issued with original maturities ranging between 1 and 10 years, while treasury bonds are issued with maturities ranging from 10 to 30 years. Видите, как notes, короче, с 1 года до 10 лет, а bonds это уже подольше, с 10 до 30 лет. Both bonds and notes may be purchased directly from the treasury in denominations of only $100, but denominations of 1,000 are far more common. Both make semi-annual coupon payments. The highlighted bond in figure 14.1 matures on July 31st, 2018. Its coupon rate is 2.25%. Par value typically is 1,000. Thus, the bond pays interest of $22.5 per year in 2 semi-annual payments of 11.25. Payments are made in January and July of each year. Although bonds usually are sold in denominations of 1,000, the bid and ask prices are quoted as a percentage of par value. Recall that the bid price is the price at which you can sell the bond to a dealer. The ask price, which is slightly higher, is the price at which you can buy the bond from a dealer. Therefore, the ask price is 108.5391% of par, or $1,085.391. Так вот, ask price, вот он, процент, это процентное получается, да? The minimum price increment or tick size in the Wall Street Journal listing is 1/128, so this bond may also be viewed as selling for 108.69/128% of par value. Так, я вот не понял, ask value это за сколько мы можем купить его у дилера, и здесь показана процентная стоимость от стоимости этого банда, да, а стоимость 1000. Поэтому у дилера мы можем купить его за 1085, да? Окей, так. А цена продажи bid price это вот это. Тоже в процентах получается. Это процентная доходность. Это изменение. Непонятно, что за изменение. И вот это какая-то процентная доходность. Тоже непонятно. Мало что понятно, короче. The last column labeled as yield is the yield to maturity on the bond based on the ask price. Сколько доходности они принесут от вот этой запрашиваемой цены. Да? Это за сколько мы можем продать, это за сколько мы можем купить. И это доходность, да, в процентах от вот этого, за сколько мы покупаем. Так, может быть, вот это, разделенное на вот это и есть 0,938. Нет, это не то. Или может минус, да? Ну, 4,69. Обратно непонятно. Ничего себе, здесь ссылки. Ну ладно. Открываем. Блин, непонятно вот это что-то. Change. Насколько, может, изменилась цена или что? Ну, какая цена изменилась? Так, ладно, ASCII это не сказали примерно. Yield maturity and measure. The yield to maturity is a measure of the average rate of return to an investor who purchases the bond for the ask price and holds it until its maturity date. We will have much to say about yield to maturity below. Okay, accurate interest and quoted bond prices. The bond prices that you see quoted in the financial pages are not actually the prices that investors pay for the bond. This is because the quoted price does not include the interest that accrues between the coupon payment dates. The bond prices that you see quoted in the financial pages are not actually the prices that investors pay for the bond. This is because the quoted price does not include the interest that accrues between coupon payment dates. Accrues — это который вытекает или как? Начисляется. Начисляет.
Accrues.
Accrues. А как это начисляется? Разве не фиксированная процентная ставка? Или они имеют в виду купонные эти платежи? Because the quoted price does not include the interest that accrues between coupon payment dates. Обратно непонятно. If a bond is purchased between coupon payments, the buyer must pay the seller for accrued interest. The prorated share of the upcoming semi-annual coupon. For example, if 30 days have passed since the last coupon payment and there are 182 days in the semi-annual coupon period, the seller is entitled to payment of accrued interest of 30 over 182 of the semi-annual coupon. То есть понятно. То есть, допустим, тот, кто продает, уже получил последний купонный этот, и до следующего этого он продержал 30 дней. То есть до следующего приближения купонной заявки он приблизил, купонного платежа он приблизил на 30 дней, поэтому он имеет на эти 30 дней право, да, потому что он продержал тот, кто продает. И из-за этого, если 182 дня в полугодовом периоде, он имеет право на получение 30 деленное на 182 полугодового купона. Да, да, замудренно, конечно. Ну понятно, да. Замудренно, но понятно. The sale or invoice price of the bond would equal the stated price, sometimes called the flat price, plus the accrued interest. Продажа будет с плюсованием этой доли продавца, да. То есть заявленная цена плюс вот этот начисляемый интерес. In general, the formula for the amount of accrued interest between two dates is accrued interest. Accrued interest is equal to annual coupon payment divided by 2. Это то есть в одно полугодие сколько бабла, да? И умноженное на days since last coupon payment, days separating coupon payments. Это общее количество дней между купонными пейментами. И здесь сколько он продержался с выплатой последнего купона. Ну, все логично, да? Okay, accrued interest. Suppose that accrued, кажется, accrued.
Accrued.
Accrued interest. Suppose that coupon rate is 8%, then the annual coupon is 80, and the semi-annual coupon payment is 40. Because 30 days have passed since the last coupon payment, the accrued interest on the bond is 40 times 30 over 182 is equal to 6.59. If the quoted price of the bond is $990, then the invoice price will be $990 plus $6.59 equals $996.59. Okay. The practice of quoting bond prices net of accrued interest explains why the price of a maturing bond is listed at 1,000 rather than 1,000 plus 1 coupon payment. Why the price of a maturing bond is listed? Непонятно. A purchaser of an 8% coupon bond 1 day before the bond's maturity would receive 1,040 par value plus semi-annual interest on the following day, and so should be willing to pay a total price of 1,040 for the bond. The bond price is quoted net of accrued interest in the financial pages and thus appears as 1,000. Так. Так, полугодовой. Если кто-то покупает 8% купон за день его созревания, то есть за день до того, как он вернет $1000, получит $1040 налти на следующий день, поэтому он должен хотеть заплатить $1040 за эту бумагу. Да? Да. Потому что 40 умноженное на 180. 2 и 182, да? Или 181 и 182. И это будет примерно 40. Но так как цены пишутся без учета вот этого купонной выплаты, то есть без начисляемого интереса, цена пишется как $1000. Поэтому заявляемая цена это в журналах, это не настоящая цена. Окей, понятно. Corporate bonds. Like the government, corporations borrow money by issuing bonds. Как и правительство, корпорации занимают деньги путем выпуска бондов. Figure 14.2 is a sample of listing for a few actively traded corporate bonds. The sample of listing for a few actively traded corporate bonds. Although some bonds trade. Так, вот эти ссылки, что? Bonds traded on formal exchanges are subject to minimum tick sizes set by the exchange, for example, minimum price increment, blah 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 blah. Stocks do not trade at flat prices with adjustments for accrued dividends. Whoever owns the stock when it goes ex-dividend receives the entire dividend payment, and the stock price reflects the value of the upcoming dividend. The price therefore typically falls by about the amount of the dividend on the ex-date. There is no need to differentiate between reported and invoice prices for stocks. То есть для акций показывается нормальная цена, насколько я понял. Although some bonds trade electronically on the NYSE Bonds platform, most bonds are traded over the counter in a network of bond dealers linked by a computer quotation system. In practice, the bond market can be quite thin, with few investors interested in trading a particular issue at any particular time. Так, здесь кто выпустил? Здесь символ, купонная выплата, когда созревает. Здесь рейтинг, здесь высокая цена, да. Здесь низкая цена, здесь последнее изменение и доходность созревания. Обратно это процентная цена от $1000, да? Наверное, 1000. Так. Так. Смотрите, это было в 2012, на 10-летних этих у них доходность всего 4,5%. За 10 лет 4,5%. Это не густо. Ну, конечно, Goldman Sachs это, наверное, надежно, да? AAA, да, Moody's, S&P, Fitch, A-, CPA. Но все равно 4,5% за 10 лет это мало. Так, ладно, где мы остановились? Вот здесь. The bond listings in figure 14.2 include the coupon, maturity price, and yield to maturity of each bond. The rating column is the estimation of bond safety given by the three major bond rating agencies, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch. Bonds with gradations of A ratings are safer than those with B ratings or below. As a general rule, safer bonds with higher ratings promise lower yields to maturity than other bonds with similar maturities. We will return to this topic toward the end of the chapter. The core provisions on corporate bonds. Так, давайте сделаем паузу. Подождите. Так, мы на 448 странице, а всего 479 страниц в этой главе вроде. Еще 30 страниц. И за полчаса мы прочитали только 3 страницы, да, где-то так. Да, конечно, не внушает оптимизма. Но будем читать до того. The call provisions on corporate bonds. Some corporate bonds are issued with call provisions allowing the issuer to repurchase the bond at a specified call price before the maturity date. То есть некоторые банды выпускаются с call provision, с заданной call price, за которую тот, кто выпускает эти банды, может выкупить ее обратно. Okay. For example, if a company issues a bond with a high coupon rate when market interest rates are high and the interest rates later fall, the firm might like to retire the high coupon debt and issue new bonds at a lower coupon rate to reduce interest payments. This is called refunding. Callable bonds typically come with a period of call protection. With a period of call protection, an initial time during which the bonds are not callable. Such bonds are referred to as deferred callable bonds. The option to call the bond is valuable to the firm, allowing it to buy back the bonds and refinance at a lower interest rates when market rates fall. Of course, the firm's benefit is the bondholder's burden. Holders of called bonds must forfeit their bonds for the call price, thereby giving up the attractive coupon rate on their original investment. To compensate investors for this risk, callable bonds are issued with higher coupons and promised yields to maturity than non-callable bonds. Ну да, они должны предлагать большую ставку и доходность, чем обычные, потому что их могут в любой момент отозвать обратно, выкупить. Convertible bonds. Convertible bonds give bondholders an option to exchange each bond for a specified number of shares of common stock of the firm. The conversion ratio is the number of shares for which each bond may be exchanged. Suppose a convertible bond is issued at par value of 1000 and is convertible into 40 shares of a firm's stock. The current stock price is 20 per share, so the option to convert is not profitable now. Так, $1000 par value. То есть они выплатят 1000, да? А так ты можешь 40 акций взять, и каждая акция по 20, это $800 будет. Или 1000 ты можешь получить, если оставишь в виде бонда, да? Is not profitable now. Should the stock price later rise to 30, however, each bond may be converted profitably into $1,200 worth of stock. The market conversion value is the current value the conversion ratio is the number of shares for which each bond may be exchanged. Здесь это 40, да? А здесь the market conversion value is the current value of the shares for which the bonds may be exchanged. Это 1200, да? At the $20 stock price, for example, the bond's conversion value is 800. The conversion premium is the excess of the bond value over its conversion value. If the bond were selling currently for 950, its premium would be 150. Так, а если цены акций поднялись бы на 30, тогда что было бы? Минус 200? Ой, ну, то есть минус 200 плюс 50, минус 250. Convertible bondholders benefit from price appreciation of the company's stock. Again, this benefit comes at a price. Convertible bonds offer lower coupon rates and stated. Again, this benefit comes at a price. Convertible bonds offer lower coupon rates and stated or promised yields to maturity than do non-convertible bonds. However, the actual return on the convertible bond may exceed the stated yield to maturity if the option to convert becomes profitable. We discuss convertible and callable bonds further in chapter 20. Вообще это как-то странно, да, что в любой момент эти бонды могут быть сконвертированы в акции, потому что это размывает долю акционеров нынешних. И как она размывается, неясно. Так. Так, convertible. Ну, здесь они говорят, что они продаются обычно дешевле, потому что обещают большую доходность. Меньше купонная доходность и yield to maturity у них меньше, но с перспективой на больше. Puttable bonds. While the callable bonds gives the issuer the option to extend or retire the bond at the call date, the extendable or put bond gives this option to the bondholder. Здесь уже тот, кто покупает эти, может продать их раньше времени, да? If the bond's coupon rate exceeds current market yields, for instance, the bondholder will choose to extend the bond's life. If the bond's coupon rate is too low, it will be optimal not to extend. The bondholder instead reclaims principal, which can be invested at current yields. Floating rate bonds. Floating rate bonds make interest payments that are tied to some measure of current market rates. For example, the rate might be just annually to the current T-bill rate plus 2%. If the 1-year T-bill rate at the adjustment date is 4%, the bond's coupon rate over the next year would then be 6%. This arrangement means that the bond always pays approximately current market rates. The major risk involved in floaters has to do with changes in the firm's financial strength. The yield spread is fixed over the life of the security, which may be many years. If the financial health of the firm deteriorates, then investors will demand a greater yield premium than is offered by the security. In this case, the price of the bond will fall, although the coupon rate on floaters adjusts to changes in the general level of market interest rates. It does not adjust to changes in the financial condition of the firm. Здесь они, короче, говорят, что даже если у фирмы положение ухудшится, то эти не будут платить больше, кто выпустил floating rate, потому что они будут платить только относительно какого-то бенчмарка, да, например, T-bill rate. Preferred stock. Although preferred stock, strictly speaking, is considered to be equity, it is often included in the fixed income universe. This is because, like bonds, preferred stock promises to pay a specified stream of dividends. However, unlike bonds, the failure to pay the promised dividend does not result in corporate bankruptcy. Instead, the dividends owed simply accumulate, and the common stockholders may not receive any dividends until the preferred stockholders have been paid in full. In the event of bankruptcy, preferred stockholders' claims to the firm's assets have lower priority than those of bondholders, but higher priority than those of common stockholders. Так, при банкротстве, короче, сначала бondholderам дают, потом preferred stockholderам, потом обычным stockholderам. Preferred stock commonly pays a fixed dividend, therefore it is in effect a perpetuity, providing a level cash flow indefinitely. In contrast, floating rate preferred stock is much like floating rate bonds. The dividend rate is linked to a measure of current market interest rates and is adjusted at regular intervals. Floating rate preferred stock. Unlike interest payments on bonds, dividends on preferred stock are not considered tax deductible expenses to the firm. Dividends on preferred stock are not considered tax-deductible expenses to the firm. This reduces their attractiveness as a source of capital to issuing firms. On the other hand, there is an offsetting tax advantage to preferred stock. When one corporation buys the preferred stock of another corporation, it pays taxes on only 30% of the dividends received. For example, if the firm tax bracket is 35 and it receives 10,000 in preferred dividend payments, it will pay taxes on only 3,000 of that income. Total taxes owed on that income will be 35% multiplied by 3,000 equal 1,050. The firm's effective tax rate on preferred dividends is therefore only 30 multiplied by 0.30 multiplied by 35 is equal to 10.5%. Given this tax rule, it is not surprising that most preferred stock is held by corporations. Preferred stock rarely gives its holders full voting privileges in the firm. However, if the preferred dividend is skipped, the preferred stockholders may then be provided some voting power. Так, здесь я не понял. Здесь они говорят, когда корпорация покупает preferred stock другой корпорации, она только платит 30% полученных дивидендов, налог, да? Если, допустим, какая-то компания которая платит 35% налогов, купила акции на 10 тысяч, то есть получает 10 тысяч дивидендов preferred dividend payments, да, от preferred стоков, тогда она платит налоги только 30% с этого, да, это $3000. Так. То есть как бы та корпорация платит, да, или фиксированно 30%. Ну ладно, 3000 они платят, так что получается, что и общие налоги, которые надо заплатить с доходов, будет 35 умноженное на 3000, 1050. Смотрите, они сначала говорят, что 3000 они должны заплатить, да? А потом говорят, что всего они должны заплатить из 3000 35%. Они платят налоги только на 30% дивидендов полученных. 30% дивидендов полученных это 3000. И 3000 умножаем на 35, сколько их налоговая ставка, и они платят 1050. И поэтому 30 умножить на 35 равно 10.5. 10.5%. Ну да, 1000 из 10 тысяч, это, наверное, как раз 10.5%. Только 30% почему-то облагается налогами, да? Всех дивидендов. Да, интересно. Здесь они говорят просто, что если не заплатили, то им дают право голоса. Other domestic issues. There are, of course, several issuers of bonds in addition to the Treasury and private corporations. For example, state and local governments issue municipal bonds. Municipal. Municipal. Municipal.
Municipal.
Municipal.
Municipal.
Municipal. Municipal bonds. The outstanding feature of this is that interest payments are tax-free. We examined municipal bonds, the value of the tax exemption and the equivalent taxable yield of these bonds in Chapter 2. Government agencies such as the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, the Farm Credit Agencies, and the Mortgage Pass-Through Agencies Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac also issue considerable amounts of bonds. These too were reviewed in Chapter 2, which I did not read. International bonds. International bonds are commonly divided into two categories: foreign bonds. Вот other domestic issuers, походу, они просто tax-free, ключевая тут, потому что это как от правительства. International bonds are commonly divided into two categories: foreign bonds and euro bonds. Foreign bonds are issued by a borrower from a country other than the one in which the bond is sold. The bond is denominated in the currency of the country in which it is marketed. For example, if a German firm sells a dollar-denominated bond in the United States, the bond is considered a foreign bond. То есть там, где они продают, в той валюте и обозначается, да? Если немцы продают в Америке, они продают за доллары. Так. Окей. Так. Foreign bond. These bonds are given colorful names based on the countries in which they are marketed. For example, foreign bonds sold in the United States are called Yankee bonds. Like other bonds sold in the United States, they are registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Yen-denominated bonds sold in Japan by non-Japanese issuers are called samurai bonds. British pound-denominated foreign bonds sold in the United Kingdom are called bulldog bonds. In contrast to foreign bonds, euro bonds are denominated in one currency, usually that of the issuer, but sold in other national markets. For example, the euro-dollar market refers to dollar-denominated bonds sold outside the United States, not just in Europe. Although London is the largest market for euro-dollar bonds. Because the euro-dollar market falls outside US jurisdiction, these bonds are not regulated by US federal agencies. Similarly, Euro-yen bonds are yen-denominated bonds selling outside Japan, Euro-sterling bonds are pound-denominated euro bonds selling outside the United Kingdom, and so on. Innovation in the bond market. Issuers constantly develop innovative bonds with unusual features. These issues illustrate that bond design can be extremely flexible. Here are examples of some novel bonds. They should give you a sense of the potential variety in security design. Flexible. Inverse floaters. These are similar to floating rate bonds we described earlier, except that the coupon rate on these bonds falls when the general level of interest rates rises. Investors in these bonds suffer doubly when rates rise. Not only does the present value of each dollar of cash flow from the bond fall as the discount rate rises, but the level of those cash flows falls as well. Of course, investors in these bonds benefit doubly when rates fall. Inverse floaters. Надо же какой инструмент.
Doubly.
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 Но это, наверное, надо брать только когда идет какой-нибудь monetary expansion, да? И ставки будут падать. Так, asset-backed bonds. Miramax once issued bonds with coupon rates tied to the financial performance of Pulp Fiction and other films. Domino's Pizza has issued bonds with payments backed by revenues from its pizza franchises. These are examples of asset-backed securities. Okay. These are examples of asset-backed securities. The income from a specified group of assets is used to service the debt. More conventional asset-backed securities are mortgage-backed securities or securities backed by auto or credit card loans, as we discussed in Chapter 2. Catastrophe bonds. Oriental Land Company, which manages... Смотрите, здесь они платят фиксированный процент или фиксированный процент от дохода или как? Наверное, какой-то процент от дохода, да? Франшиз, фильмов и ипотеки, да? И credit card bonds. Да. Catastrophe bonds. Oriental Land Company, which manages Tokyo Disneyland, issued a bond in 1999 with a final payment that depended on whether there had been an earthquake near the park. More recently, FIFA, the Federation Internationale de Football Association, issued catastrophe bonds with payments that would be halted if terrorism forced the cancellation of the 2006 World Cup. Так, здесь что? Если было землетрясение, менялась оплата, да? Здесь. Если террористы вынудили бы отменить чемпионат мира, Кубок мира 2006, тогда они перестали бы платить по этим бандам, да? Да. These bonds are a way to transfer catastrophe risk from the firm to the capital markets. Investors in these bonds receive compensation for taking on the risk in the form of higher coupon rates. But in the event of a catastrophe, the bondholders will give up all or part of their investment. Disaster can be defined by total insured losses or by criteria such as wind speed in a hurricane or Richter level in an earthquake. Issuance of catastrophe bonds has grown in recent years, and as insurers have sought ways to spread their risks across a wider spectrum of capital market. Окей. Да, это страховочным фирмам выгодно так брать деньги, да? Indexed bonds. Indexed bonds make payments that are tied to a general price index or the price of a particular commodity. For example, Mexico has issued bonds with payments that depend on the price of oil. Some bonds are indexed to the general price level. The United States Treasury started issuing such inflation-indexed bonds in January 1997. They are called Treasury Inflation Protected Securities, TIPS. By tying the par value of the bond to the general level of prices, coupon payments as well as final repayment of par value on these bonds increase in direct proportion to the consumer price index. Therefore, the interest rate on these bonds is a risk-free real rate. Так. To illustrate how TIPS work, consider a newly issued bond with a 3-year maturity, par value of 1,000 and the coupon rate of 4%. For simplicity, we will assume the bond makes annual coupon payments, assume that inflation turns out to be 2, 3 and 1% in the next 3 years. Table 14.1 shows how the bond cash flows will be calculated. The first payment comes at the end of the first year, T1. Because inflation over the year was 2%, the par value of the bond increases from 1,000 to 1,020. Because the coupon rate is 4, the coupon payment is 4% of this amount, or 40.8. Так, the year was 2%, 2%, 1% это 10, 2% 20. По value за год увеличился на инфляцию 20. Coupon rate это 4% par value это 40.8. А так было бы просто 40, да? Notice that par value increases by the inflation rate, and because the coupon payments are 4% of par, they too increase in proportion to the general price level. Therefore, the cash flows paid by the bond are fixed in real terms. Извиняюсь, извините. Вот кашель уже закрывал. Так. When the bond matures, the investors receive a final coupon payment of 42.44. This is the final coupon payment of 42.44 plus the price level index repayment of principal $1,061.11. Так вот, $1000 par value. На 2% подорожало, на 3% и на 1%, да. И вот показывает, как менялась цена, как менялась купон payment. Так, principal repayment в конце. Окей. Total payment 40, 42 тысячи. By the way, total nominal income, i.e. coupon plus that year's increase in principal, is treated as a taxable income each year. Так, the nominal rate of return, this principal and interest payments for a treasury inflation protected security. Like the nominal rate of return on the bond in the first year is nominal return is equal to interest plus price appreciation, initial price 40.8 plus 20 over 1000 is equal to 6.08%. The real rate of return is precisely the 4% real yield on the bond. Real return 1 plus nominal return over 1 plus inflation minus 1. 1.06, 0.8, 1.02, минус 1 равно 4,4%. One can show in a similar manner, see problem 18 in the end of chapter problems, that the rate of return in each of 3 years is 4% as long as the real yield on the bond remains constant. If real yields do change, then there will be capital gains or losses on the bond. In mid-2013, the real yield on long-term TIPS bonds was less than 0.5%. Так, если реальная ставка меняется, то есть у них также может меняться ставка, не зафиксирована. Bond pricing. Самое интересное. Because a bond's coupon and principal repayments all occur months or years in the future, the price an investor would be willing to pay for a claim to those payments depends on the value of dollars to be received in the future compared to dollars in hand today. This present value calculation depends in turn on market interest rates. As we saw in Chapter 5, the nominal risk-free interest rate equals the sum of 1. A real risk-free rate of return, and 2. A premium above the real rate to compensate for expected inflation. In addition, because most bonds are not riskless, the discount rate will embody an additional premium that reflects bond-specific characteristics such as default risk, liquidity tax attributes, call risk, and so on. We simplify for now by assuming there is one interest rate that is appropriate for discounting cash flows of any maturity, but we can relax this assumption easily. In practice, there may be different discount rates for cash flows accruing in different periods. For the time being, however, we ignore this refinement. To value a security To value a security, we discount its expected cash flows by the appropriate discount rate. Ну да, логично, да? Мы дисконтируем весь cash flow. The cash flows from a bond consists of coupon payments until the maturity date plus the final payment of par value.
Par.
Французский, конечно.
Par.
Par value. Therefore, bond value is equal to present value of coupons plus present value of par value. If we call the maturity date T and call the interest rate R, the bond value can be written as bond value is equal to coupon T I is equal to 1 to T, coupon здесь T is equal to, наверное. Давайте немножко увеличим, да? Вот. Да, T is equal to. Здесь давайте отцентрируем. Вот так. Вот, намного лучше. Так. Ну, за каждый год, получается, мы дисконтируем купонную эту и прибавляем par value и делим его на T, потому что он в конце будет выпущен. The summation sign in equation 14.1 directs us to add the present value of each coupon payment. Each coupon is discounted based on the time until it will be paid. The first term on the right hand side of equation 14.1 is the present value of an annuity. The second term is the present value of a single amount, the final payment of the bonds par value. Так, здесь ничего невероятно сказали, хотя до этого было все понятно. Здесь discount based on the time until it will be paid. Ну, не until, наверное, а имеется в виду. It здесь ссылается на что? На coupon payment в общем или на конкретный coupon payment. Короче, каждый coupon payment будет дисконтирован на тот год, в котором он будет выплачен. You may recall from an introductory finance class that the present value of a $1 annuity that lasts 40 periods when the interest rate equals R is 1 over R times 1 minus 1 over 1 plus R to the power of t. We call this expression the t-period annuity factor for the interest rate of R. Similarly, we can Similarly, we call 1 over 1 plus R to the power of t the PV factor, that is the present value of a single payment of $1 to be received in t periods. Therefore, we can write the price of the bond as price is equal to coupon times 1 over R multiplied by 1 minus 1 over 1 plus R to the power of t plus par value multiplied by 1 over 1 plus R to the power of t, coupon times annuity factor plus par value times PV factor. Ну, все понятно? Bond pricing. We discussed earlier an 8% coupon 30-year maturity bond with par value of 1,000 paying 60 semi-annual coupon payments of $40 each. Suppose that interest rate is 8% annually or R is equal to 4% per 6 months period. And then the value of the bond can be written as sum of these coupon payments plus discount value of power. И это, короче, у нас суммируем все вот эти купоны, эти дисконтируем на вот эту ставку, все T, где T от 1 до 60. И прибавляем вот этот дисконтированный par value. И это будет 40 умноженное на annuity factor 4%, 60 плюс 1000 умноженное на PV factor 4%, 60. It is easy to confirm that the present value of the bond's 60 semi-annual coupon payments of $40 each is $904.94, and that the 1,000 final payment of par value and the present value of 95.06 for a total bond value of 1,000. You can calculate the value directly from equation 14.2. Perform these calculations on any financial calculator, use spreadsheet program, or use a set of present value tables. In this example, the coupon rate equals the market interest rate, and the coupon rate equals the market interest rate, and the bond price equals par value. If the interest rate were not equal to the bond coupon rate, the bond would not sell at par value. For example, if the interest rate were to rise to 10%, 5% per 6 months, the bond price would fall by $189.29 to $810.71 as follows. Умножаем, короче, вот это payment, умножаем par value на вот это. PV factor 60 и 5, 60 factor. получается 757.17 плюс 53.54 выходит 810.71. At a higher interest rate, the present value of the payments to be received by the bondholder is lower. Therefore, bond prices fall as market interest rate rises. This illustrates a crucial general rule in bond valuation. Here is a quick derivation of the formula for the present value of an annuity. An annuity less securities can be related to perpetuity whose first payment comes at the end of the current period, less another perpetuity whose first payment comes at the end of the T+1 first period. The immediate perpetuity net of the delayed perpetuity provides exactly T payments. We know that the value of $1 per period perpetuity is 1 over R, therefore the present value of the delayed perpetuity is 1 over R discounted for T additional periods 1 over R times with the present value of the delayed perpetuity is 1 over R the immediate perpetuity net of the delayed perpetuity provides exactly T payments. We know that the value of $1 per period perpetuity is 1 over R, therefore the present value of the delayed perpetuity is 1 over R discounted for T additional periods. The present value of the annuity is the present value of the first perpetuity minus the present value of the delayed perpetuity, or 1 over R. The first perpetuity is delayed perpetuity. Okay, here is the trap to avoid. You should not confuse the bond's coupon rate, which determines the interest rate to the bondholder, with the market interest rate. Once a bond is issued, its coupon rate is fixed. When the market interest rate increases, investors discount any fixed payment at a higher discount rate, which implies that the present values and bond prices fall. Да, короче, они говорят, bonds coupon rate фиксированный, да? Coupon rate is fixed. Но за счет того, что цена не фиксирована, цена бонда может упасть, и как бы вот этот становится как бы больше выплаты, процентной выплаты. Bond prices are tedious to calculate without a spreadsheet or a financial calculator, but they are easy to calculate with either. Financial calculators designed with present and future value formulas already programmed can greatly simplify calculations of the sort we just encountered in example 14.2. The basic financial calculator uses 5 keys that correspond to the inputs for the time value of money problems such as bond pricing. N is the number of time periods. In the case of bond, N equals the number of periods until the bond matures. If bond makes semi-annual payments, N is the number of half-year periods, or equivalently the number of semi-annual coupon payments. For example, if the bond has 10 years until maturity, you would enter 24 ends, since each payment period is 1/2 year. I's give the interest rate per period expressed as a percentage, not as a decimal. For example, if the interest rate is 6%, you would enter 6, not 0.06. PV is the present value. Many calculators require that PV be entered as a negative number in recognition of the fact that purchase of the bond is a cash outflow, while the receipt of the coupon payment and face value are cash inflows. PV is the present value. Many calculators require that PV be entered as a negative number. Покажите. PV is the present value. Many calculators require that PV be entered as a negative number in recognition of the fact that purchase of the bond is a cash outflow, while the receipt of coupon payments and face value are cash inflows. Future value is the future value or face value of the bond. In general, FV is interpreted as a one-time future payment of the cash flow, which for bonds is the face value. PMT is the amount of any recurring payment. For coupon bonds, payment is the coupon payment. For zero coupon bonds, PMT will be 0. Given any 4 of these inputs, the calculator will solve for the fees. We can illustrate the bond in example. We can illustrate with the bond in example 14.2. Bond pricing on a financial calculator. To find the bond's price when the annual market interest rate is 8%, you would enter these inputs in any order. N is equal to 60. The bond has a maturity of 30 years, so it makes 60 semi-annual payments. N is equal to 4. The semi-annual market interest rate is 4. Future value is 1,000. The bond provides one-time cash flow of 1,000 when it matures. Payment 40. Semi-annual coupon payment is 40. On most calculators, you now punch the compute key labeled comp or CPT and enter PV, and then enter PV to obtain the bond price, that is present value the present value of today, the present value today of the bond's cash flows. If you do this, you should find a value of minus 1,000. The negative sign signifies that while the investor receives cash flow from the bond, the price paid by the bond is a cash outflow or a negative cash flow. If you want to find the value of the bond when the interest rate is 10, the second part of the example 14.2, just enter 5% for semi-annual interest rate, type 5 and then I, and when you compute PV, you will find that it is 810.71. Figure 14.3 shows the price of the 30-year 8% coupon bond for a range of interest rates, including 8% at which the bond sells at par and 10% at which it sells for 810.71. The negative slope illustrates the inverse relationship between prices and yields. The negative slope illustrates the inverse relationship between prices and yields. The shape of the curve in figure 14.3 implies that an increase in the interest rate results in a price decline that is smaller than the price gain resulting from a decrease of equal magnitude in the interest rate. Так, где эти таблицы? Вот 14.3. Так, bond price уменьшается с каждым разом, как этот растет interest rate. Interest rate растет сюда, bond price уменьшается. Если interest rate уменьшается, bond price растет. Если interest rate равен нулю, то bond price почти 3500. Нифига себе. Вот эта таблица, да? 2%, 4%, 8% и 10%. При 8% везде 1000, да? Потому что купон bond, купон payments are 8%, поэтому здесь 1000. Так. Угу. А, 30 лет maturity, да. Да, это такая высокая цена, потому что если бы ставки были равны нулю, инфляция равна нулю, там, допустим, да, этот платит 8% ежегодно на протяжении 30 лет, это, считай, $80 в год на протяжении 30 лет. Это 2400, да, считай, приблизительно. И плюс 1000, это 3400. Да, тогда все правильно. Так, где мы остановились? Figure 14.3 shows the price of the 30-year 8% coupon bond for a range of interest rates, including 8% at which the bond sells at par and 10% at which it sells for 810. The negative slope illustrates the inverse relationship between price and yields. The shape of the curve in figure 14.3 implies that an increase in the interest rate results in a price decline that is smaller than the price gain resulting from a decrease of equal magnitude in the interest rate. Вот это предложение капец замудренное и непонятное, оно больше вводит в заблуждение, чем объясняет. This property of bond prices is called convexity because of the convex shape of the bond price curve. This curvature reflects the fact that progressive increases in the interest rate result in progressively smaller reductions in the bond price. This curvature reflects the fact that progressive increases in the interest rate results in progressively smaller reductions in the bond price. Therefore, price curve becomes flatter at higher interest rates. We return to convexity in chapter 16. Так, вот это что? The shape of the curve gradually increasing the interest rate results in a price decline. that is smaller than the price gain resulting from a decrease of equal magnitude in the interest rate. Ну convexity. Короче, они хотели сказать convexity. Да, короче, они говорят, сюда эта цена падает уже все медленнее и медленнее. Если сюда, тогда этот поднялся, может подниматься на много interest rate вначале, да? Но, то есть interest rate, то есть может изменяться сильно здесь, но цена возрастает немножко. Потом уже меняется все. Так, окей. Так. Corporate bonds typically are issued at par value. This means that the underwriters of the bond issue the firms that market the bonds to the public or the issuing corporation must choose a coupon rate that very closely approximates market yields. In a primary issue, the underwriters attempt to sell the newly issued bonds directly to their customers. In a primary issue, the underwriters attempt to sell the newly issued bonds directly to their customers. If the coupon rate is inadequate, investors will not pay par value for the bonds. If the coupon rate is inadequate, investors will not pay par value for the bonds. After the bonds are issued, bondholders may buy or sell bonds in secondary markets. In these markets, bond prices fluctuate inversely with the market interest rate. The inverse relationship between the price and yield is a central feature of fixed income securities. Interest rate fluctuations represent the main source of risk in the fixed income market, and we devote considerable attention in Chapter 16 to assessing the sensitivity of bond prices to market yields. For now, however, we simply highlight one key factor that determines that sensitivity, namely the maturity of the bond. Так, где я читал? Interest rate fluctuations represent the main source of risk in the fixed income market, and we devote considerable attention in Chapter 16 to assessing the sensitivity of bond prices to market yields. For now, however, we simply highlight one key factor that determines that sensitivity, namely the maturity of the bond. As a general rule, keeping all other factors the same, the longer the maturity of the bond, the greater the sensitivity of price to fluctuations in the interest rate. For example, consider table 14.2, which represents the price of an 8% coupon bond at different market yields and times to maturity. For any departure of the interest rate from 8%, the rate at which the bond sells at par value, the change in the bond price is greater for longer times to maturity. This makes sense if you buy the bond at par with an 8% coupon rate and market rate subsequently rise, then you suffer a loss. You have tied up your money earning 8% when alternative investments offer high returns. This is reflected in a capital loss on the bond, a fall in its market price. The progressively smaller impact of interest rates results largely from the fact that at higher rates the bond is worth less. Therefore, an additional increase in rates operates on a smaller initial base, resulting in a smaller price decline. Так. Так, видите, если 2% платит, тогда цена его выше, потому что доходность выше. Доходность 8% больше, чем доходность 2%, поэтому цена здесь увеличивается. А если 10% доходность меньше, поэтому цена здесь уменьшается. Как бы ценой своей он компенсирует за изменение доходности. Да. The longer the period for which your money is... вот давайте здесь еще прочитаем. This makes sense if you buy bond at par with an 8% coupon rate and market rates subsequently rise, then you suffer a loss. You have tied up your money earning 8% when alternative investments offer higher returns. This is reflected in a capital loss on the bond, a fall in its market price. Also in its market price. Так, видите, у вас лосс, потому что вы зарабатываете 8%, когда другие зарабатывают 10%. И этот лосс отражается в цене. The longer the period for which your money is tied up, the greater the loss, and correspondingly, the greater the drop in the bond price. In table 14.2, the row for 1-year maturity bonds shows little price sensitivity. That is, with only 1 year's earnings at stake, changes in interest rates are not too threatening. But for 30-year maturity bonds, interest rate swings have a large impact on bond prices. The force of discounting is greatest for the longest term bonds. Да, здесь уже разброс, видите, от 2300 до 810, потому что на 30 лет инвестирование денег. This is why short-term treasury securities such as T-bills are considered to be the safest. They are free not only of default risk, but also largely of price risk attributable to interest rate volatility. Bond pricing between coupon dates. Equation 14.2 for bond prices assumes that the next coupon payment is in precisely one payment period, either a year for an annual payment bond or 6 months for a semi-annual payment bond. But you probably want to be able to price bond all 365 days of the year, not just the 1 or 2 days each year that it makes a coupon payment. Not just on the 1 or 2 days each year that it makes a coupon payment. In principle, the fact that the bond is between coupon dates does not affect the pricing problem. The procedure is always the same: compute the present value of each remaining payment and sum up. But if you are between coupon dates, there will be fractional periods remaining until each payment, and this does complicate arithmetic computations. Fortunately, bond pricing functions are included in most spreadsheet programs such as Excel. The spreadsheet allows you to enter today's date as well as the maturity date of the bond, and so can provide prices for bonds at any date. The nearby box shows you how. The spreadsheet allows you to enter today's date as well as the maturity date of the bond, and so can provide prices for bonds at any date. Так. Продолжаем. Fortunately, bond pricing functions are included in most spreadsheet programs such as Excel. The spreadsheet allows you to enter today's date as well as the maturity date of the bond, and so can provide prices for bonds at any date. The nearby box shows you how. As we pointed out earlier, bond prices are typically quoted net of accrued interest. These prices, which appear in financial press, are called flat prices. The actual invoice price that a buyer pays for the bond includes accrued interest. Thus, invoice price equals flat price plus accrued interest. When a bond pays its coupon, flat price equals invoice price, because at that moment accrued interest reverts to zero. However, this will be exceptional case, not the rule. Excel pricing functions provide the flat price of the bond. To find the invoice price, we need to add accrued interest. Fortunately, Excel also provides functions that count the days since the last coupon payment date, and thus can be used to compute accrued interest. The nearby box also illustrates how to use these functions. The box provides examples using bonds that have just paid a coupon and so have zero accrued interest, as well as bonds that is between coupon dates. Excel application bond pricing. Excel and most other spreadsheet programs provide built-in functions to compute bond prices and yields. They typically ask you to input both the date you buy the bond, called the settlement date, and the maturity date of the bond. The Excel function for bond price is price, settlement date, maturity date, annual coupon rate, yield to maturity, redemption value as percent of par value, number of coupon payments per year. For the 2.25% coupon July 2018 maturity bond, for the 2.25% coupon July 2018 maturity bond highlighted in figure 14.1, we would enter the values in spreadsheet 14.1. Notice that in spreadsheets we must enter interest rates as decimals, not percentages. Alternatively, we could simply enter the following function in Excel. Spreadsheet 14.1. No, 14.1. Так, еще. Settlement date, maturity date, annual coupon rate, yield to maturity 0.079, redemption value, percentage of face value. Coupon payments per year too. Ну, давайте попробуем на том Excel. Где Excel? The date function in Excel, which we use for both the settlement and maturity date, uses the format date, year, month, day. The first date is July 31st, 2012, when the bond is purchased, and the second date, is July 31st, 2018, when it matures. Most bonds pay coupons either on the 15th or the last business day of the month. Блин, это старый Excel. Так, здесь нужно новый Excel. Копируем эту формулу. Ну, здесь непонятно такая вот redemption value, percentage of face value, и вот yield to maturity 0.079, как они посчитали yield to maturity. Так. note, most bonds pay coupons either on the 15th or the last business day of the month. Notice that the coupon rate and yield to maturity are expressed as decimals, not percentages. In most cases, redemption value is 100, i.e. 100% of par value, and the resulting price similarly is expressed as percent of par value. Occasionally, however, you may encounter bonds that pay off at a premium or discount to par value. One example would be callable bonds, discussed shortly. The value of the bond returned by the pricing function is 108.5392, which nearly matches the price reported in table 14.1. The yield to maturity is reported to only 3 decimal places, which results in a little rounding error. This bond has just paid a coupon. In other words, the settlement date is precisely at the beginning of the coupon period, so no adjustment for accrued interest is necessary. Окей, да. Так, проверим. Не 5 здесь должно быть равно. Да. Сто восемь, да. Возьмем куб бейс. B4, B5. Это имеется в виду 2 периода и 1 час. Settlement date, maturity, frequency, and phases. Settlement date. Maturity date. Frequency. Что-то basis 1, я не знаю. Так, здесь мы делаем вид этот процент и делим на 2. Это пропорция. Это base со сколько? Это base, сколько он период, это пропорция, сколько он продержал. Умножаем на процентную ставку. Умножаем на 100. И 2. Вот это делить на вот это. Затем умножаем на вот это. Точка 0,2. Окей. И здесь финальная цена это вот это. Плюс вот это. А что за эта функция? Current number of days from the beginning of the coupon period until its settlement date. Returns the number of days from the beginning of the coupon period until its settlement date. Просто for days. Number of days from the coupon period contains the settlement date. Number of days in the coupon period that contains the settlement date. С начала периода до даты сколько дней? Без смысла сколько. Так. Так, здесь 161, а может должно быть 162. Да, расчеты разнятся. Не знаю почему. Ну, примерно одинаково. Так, окей. Так. Здесь только непонятно, откуда берется yield to maturity. Остальное все понятно. Может быть, есть правильные ссылки, если хотите. Так, ладно. Ой, блин. Так, the value of the bond returned by the pricing function is blah, which nearly matches the price reported in table. For example, bond, the yield to maturity is reported to only 3 decimal places, which results in a little rounding error. This bond has just paid a coupon. In other words, the settlement date is precisely at the beginning of the coupon period, so no adjustment for accrued interest is necessary. To illustrate the procedure for bonds between coupon payments, consider the 6.25 coupon May 2030 bond, also appearing in figure 14.1. Using the entries in column B of the spreadsheet, we find in cell B12 that the flat price of the bond is 161, which matches the price given in the figure except for a few cents rounding error. What about the bond's invoice price? Rows 13 through 16 make the necessary adjustments. The function described in cell 13, C13, counts days since the last coupon. This day count is based on the bond settlement date, maturity date, coupon period, 1 equal to annual, 2 semi-annual, and day count convention. Choice 1 uses actual days. The function described in cell C14 counts the total days in each coupon payment period. Therefore, the entries for accrued interest in row 15 are the semi-annual coupon multiplied by the fraction of the coupon period that was elapsed since the last payment. Finally, the invoice prices in row 16 are the sum of flat prices plus accrued interest. As a final example, suppose you wish to find the price of the bond in example 14.2. It is a 30-year maturity bond with a coupon rate of 8% paid semi-annually. The market interest rate given in the latter part of the example is 10%. However, you are not given a specific settlement of maturity date. You can still use the price function to value the bond. Simply choose an arbitrary settlement date and let the maturity date be 30 years hence. The appropriate inputs appear in column F of the spreadsheet with the resulting price 81.0707% of face value appearing in cell F16. Так, здесь что? Percentage of par. Это 810, это 1080, да? Окей, ну примерно понятно. Так, на этом, наверное, мы с вами закончим на сегодня, потому что и так уже сколько мы записали. 2 часа 19 минут. Остальное потом продолжим. Спасибо за внимание.